I'm glad you're here. So how was the flight?
It was okay. There was this guy sitting next to me, and the whole flight he kept trying to talk to me, asking me about the book I was reading, nudging me every time the stewardess walked by to see if I wanted to ask her for anything. Yeah, I don't know. He was older, like late 40s, early 50s older, but do you think he was hitting on me?
She said.
Did you? Never mind. Yeah, I think this guy was probably flirting with you, hitting on you. I mean, who in their right mind wouldn't? Look at you.
Oh, gosh, you're sweet. Thanks.
She said, laughing.
There it is again.
What, sweetie?
She said, the hint of concern in her voice.
There. Did you hear that?
What did it sound like, hon?
She said. Taylor was now very concerned that Marcus, whom she'd traveled all this way to see, had been once again smoking the marijuana, which he'd told her 6 months ago he'd quit.
I'm not smoking the pot, Taylor.
I never said you were, hon.
She replied, not exactly a lie, but then again, lying to Marcus had become second nature. What would one more lie hurt, she thought.
You really don't hear some guy talking?
Taylor shook her head while sipping her drink, wondering just how much dope Marcus had been smoking these days. She hoped he wasn't doing acid again, but with Marcus, she could never be too sure.
Seriously.
Taylor began to perspire just at the top of her forehead, a sure sign that she was feeling very uncomfortable, nervous that Marcus, at any moment, might explode into one of his infamous drug-induced rages. Slowly, her right hand slid down to her purse in what she hoped was a non-threatening manner. The can of mace had been there ever since their third date and the accident.
I'm sorry. I must just be catching radio waves in my feelings.
Oh, now, I've heard of that.
She said, thinking, that's an urban legend, you freaking junkie.
So what else did this guy on the plane have to say?
Taylor began to tell Marcus about the man on the plane, followed quickly by a synopsis of the book she'd read 2 months earlier. In her mind, she decided that if she kept her attention on the book's plot, then perhaps she wouldn't flush at the thought of the older gentleman who, in the dark moments of the red-eye flight, took her in his arms and kissed her repeatedly, running his hands over the cashmere sweater Marcus had bought her the Christmas prior.
Marcus, I said he couldn't remember the author's name, even though I'd said it like 20 times. Isn't that crazy?
She said.
So did you change your shirt before you got off the plane?
What? Does it look like it?
She asked, somewhat confused by Marcus's line of questioning.
Yeah, it just doesn't have that traveled-in look. It looks a little too fresh.
Taylor processed this for a moment, thinking it a strangely perceptive thing for the usually clueless Marcus to notice.
Yeah.
She laughed.
I was wearing that sweater you got me for Christmas last year, but it smelled like travel sweat, so I changed when I got
Taylor stopped in mid-sentence as Marcus suddenly rose, grabbed his coat, and walked out the door.
What the hell was that for?
She asked the curious man, writing in the black notebook and listening to a pair of old headphones.
That was too intense. Are there any good hotels around here?
She asked this interesting man who was looking at his music-playing device. While surprised at Marcus's disappearance, Taylor had the beginnings of an idea that perhaps her troubles with Marcus were finally over, and that perhaps this quiet man could help her celebrate her newfound freedom well into the night.
A time when the very systems of control and commerce that we had believed would be the status quo were somehow no longer relevant.